What's up? It's Marco back on the Stage of Soccer channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about the 15th through 11th place teams of the Premier League. Um, as I call them, avoiding relegation and avoiding Europe. And yeah, it's going to jump right into it. Just going to say I made these script right after the festive fixtures had ended, so the placement's going to be a tiny bit off, but it's fine. Anyway, so jumping into it first, we got a Newcastle sitting there in 15th place, and right now they're close to getting into a relegation battle after a battle with the virus and some poor form. So obviously Newcastle, they were, I think, the first team to really have a virus scare. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the no word yet, but yeah, and that definitely hurt them. But there are some good players. Carl Darlow in particular, he's been standing out. He might be one of the best shot-stopping keepers in the Premier League this year, and he's been doing great in place of Dubravka. I think the defense is a bit of an issue. It's been kind of mediocre. Obviously, their injuries, the virus, and I'm not even sure what the best defense is. It's been really inconsistent. Jamal Shells, he's been in and out of the lineup. Shar, I'm not too sold on. Fernandez has been decent. Jamal Lewis has been decent. Again, another I'm not too sold on. And the right wing back or right back position has just been up in the air with Manquillo, Josh Murphy, DeAndre Yedlin's even been getting in there a little bit lately, but yeah, overall, a lot of interesting play, a lot of interesting defenders there. I think mediocre is the word I'd use to describe it. Midfield, it's fine. Honestly, I really don't want to dig into John Joe Shelby, Isaac Hayden, the Longstaff brothers, Almiron in particular. I mean, they've been decent, but I mean, the Premier League's just been so strong recently that that's not a great midfield at all, and they're going to have to play a lot better if they want to avoid getting dragged into a relegation battle, which it is going to be tough to do with how bad the bottom teams are this year. But Fulham, Burnley, they're picking up form, and that last spot could be interesting. Up top is where they've really stood out. Callum Wilson, he's been a great signing, putting in goals. He's nailing his penalties. Great work for him. And Joe Alton's been playing a lot better this year. Goal scoring still a little bit inconsistent, but he's definitely linking up well with Wilson, and he is doing pretty well, I think. And also, Dwight Gale and Andy Carroll off the bench are two pretty impactful super subs. So I think up top is definitely their best strength. Beside maybe Darlow, who's been great, but yeah, that's a real standout there. Other things, St. Maximin's been great. Almiron's been solid, and Josh Murphy's been pretty good. I have it written down. It's Josh Murphy Jacobs at Cardiff right now. One of them used to be at Coventry. Had the Ultimate Team card back in the day. I think the biggest problem for Newcastle right now is their consistency. There's been several players who had great games, but they just haven't been able to replicate it. I mean, there's been a game where Josh Murphy, I had him as man of the match. Almiron's been great sometimes. St. Maximin, when he's playing, he can do something. Joe Welton had a really great game a while ago when he had a goal and an assist. Callum Wilson as well. Well, Callum Wilson's been more consistent, but that's the main problem with this team. And I think my biggest criticism is that this doesn't happen a lot. You'll have a Joe Welton game, you'll have a St. Maximin game, an Almiron game, a Murphy game, but you won't have any of them really going at it together and both of them playing well. I think that's one of the main criticisms of the team, just not being able to replicate the form. Manager-wise, I think Steve Bruce has been fine. I mean, he's there to avoid relegation, and I was critical of him going into the year because my thinking was you've got so much attacking talent on this team that you don't want a really defensive manager. But I mean, they've been doing fine. I mean, they're definitely able to showcase their talent, but overall, I mean, still don't. I'm not sold on him as a great manager, and I know a lot of fans are hating on him, but I mean, as they should be. But they're in position to stay up despite having a battle with the virus. Something interesting I want to talk about is this is a Newcastle team that's basically reaching its expectations, and what I'm thinking is, man, Newcastle are really underachieving. I mean, remember the good old days for Newcastle when they had Demba Ba and Cisse up front, Jan Kabay, Ben Arfa, Colaccini, Tim Krul in net, and man, back when they were doing really well, it was remember the good old days when we had Alan Shearer and Ferdinand, Cole, all those just great players in the 90s, early 2000s, and my good old days for Newcastle are not the same as everybody else's. I don't know, something I wanted to mention. In 14th place, we got Crystal Palace. This talk will be a lot shorter because they're reaching their expectations, but I think a change is needed. So going through the players, I mean, everybody's basically doing what's expected of them. I think Zaha might be overperforming a little bit, or at least he's getting more credit. But yeah, I mean, Guaita, he's had some really good moments, but a couple of mistakes. The game against Spurs stands out. We had a pretty bad spell in the first goal, but then kept the team in the game. Man, Darlow had a really good game against Spurs as well. Unlucky there for Spurs. But yeah, Guaita, he's been good. The center backs have been solid, but dealing with injuries. Kouyate's been doing well filling in. Patrick Van Aanholt and Tyreek Mitchell are in a battle at left back. Van Aanholt the more attacking option. Mitchell much better defensively. Klein's been fine outright. Ward's been doing what you expect of him. MacArthur and Riedewald have been decent in the midfield. Lumil Vojovic as well. Townsend and Schlupp getting a couple of goals. Good defensive ability. Eze, he looks really good. Solid signing. Great on the ball. Yeah. He's probably the best signing they've had in a long time. Probably the first really talented on-the-ball player that they've had play for them, because Riedewald, it took him a huge amount of time to break into the team. Max Meyer, he's still not in there. So it's good to see Eze playing, because he's definitely showing Roy Hodgson something to be able to get onto the field. And the strikers show some talent, good work rate, but nobody's a consistent goal threat right now. Maybe disappointing that Batshuayi hasn't been playing well. So, I mean, honestly, Crystal Palace, they've been fine this year, but it's a similar story to every other year. I mean, Hodgson is probably going to be in his last year. So a new manager's going to come in. That's really going to be a tough task for them, because what if Zaha gets hurt? I mean, we saw Frank de Boer. I don't think he's that bad of a manager. I mean, Netherlands hired him for a reason, but Zaha got injured, and they didn't win a single game. I don't think they scored a goal. So, man, if Zaha gets hurt or if he leaves, they could be in a real relegation battle. And honestly, at the moment, the future does not look bright for Crystal Palace. So next we've got Wolves, who were in 13th at the time I made the script. I think they're in 14th now. So for them, they're underachieving massively, but I like a couple of the signs that I see. So Wolves have been really poor this year. They really should be disappointed, but there are a couple of positives I want to take away. So Rui Patricio, he's still a solid keeper. He's still Portugal's number one of the better goalies in the Premier League, and really solid. Also, Connor Cody has proven that he can play in a back four. Marcel, I think he's looked good when he's played. The midfield is still pretty good with Moutinho, Neves, Dendonkers there. Podence and Neto, they've both shown a lot. And Raul Jimenez, obviously he's out, but he still showed his talent. And there are the obvious downsides. Boley and Saiz, they've been inconsistent, I think. Not really able to nail down that second center back spot. Nelson Semedo, he's not looked that good for Wolves since signing. He's been at fault for a lot of goals they've conceded. Even though I mentioned the midfield as a positive, Ruben Neves, he's looked a lot worse this year than he has been in the past. And Adama Traore has really taken a step back. He had a good FA Cup game since I made the script, but yeah, overall not great. And then obviously you have to look at Raul Jimenez's injury, and that's really disappointing as well. But then another positive for them is the youth that they have coming through. Max Kilman, he's been looking really good. He's probably England's most promising left-footed center back they have right now. So that's a lot of money in the future, or just a great player. But Wolves actually have a good amount of left-footed center backs with him and Saiz, so that's something to remember. Then also you have Et Nori. He's been doing, I'm not going to say he's been doing great, but to be able to be playing in the Premier League as a teenager, that's something. Owen Adawasawi, the American, he's been looking pretty good when he comes in. Obviously, probably not going to be playing long for them a lot, but he's looked decent for teenager playing in the Premier League, as I'm saying. Vitinho's shown some signs, and Fabio Silva has looked half decent in the Premier League. Obviously, he isn't ready to start for them, I don't think, but there are some decent signs. So obviously they are underachieving, but I think with the system change that can be expected. Several players are pretty poor in the new system, but I think there's enough good. There's something to build on, and honestly, recruiting players for that new system really isn't a concern at the moment. But one thing in regard to George Mendes I wanted to mention is I think that Nelson Semedo has been a really bad sign to replace Matt Doherty, and I'm not sure if he needed to be sold. So one thing I wanted to talk about with that is if Mendes is putting his clients into the team and it's making Wolves worse, that's a big issue. If he wants to get rid of Connor Cody to bring in, let's say, the other Semedo, then that's going to be an issue for Wolves long term. Obviously, he's been a huge positive for the club, and he's gotten them from a Championship League One team into Europe, so he's obviously been a good thing for the club, but I just wanted to mention that. Anyway, now we're on to Leeds, who were in 12th place, and they've shown some great moments, some bad moments, but 12th is basically what I expected. I think I had them 14th in my prediction, but just around this position. Probably really good for a team that just came up. So looking at the player-wise, Melier, he's been a really good shot stopper. I'm a bit concerned about his distribution and his aerial presence. Obviously, Leeds have been conceding a lot of goals from corners and he's crossed into the box. And he's been putting them under a lot of pressure with his distribution, but with how young he is and his shot-stopping talent, he's definitely a real asset for Leeds. Almost called them Wolves again. The defense have been really poor at defending, whatever the combination. The center backs have been really inconsistent this year, but it's not been great. Both balls into the box and from set plays and open play, that's been a huge issue for them. Ailing has been decent going forward, but overall the defense hasn't been good. In the midfield, I have liked the play of Phillips and Klitsch, but and Rodrigo has had his moments, but it's a solid midfield. I think they can definitely improve it talent-wise. I think it's more of the system carrying the players. Up front, Jack Harrison, Rafinha, Patrick Bamford, all of them have been pretty inconsistent but good overall, I'd say. So yeah, I think for Leeds, they're doing very well for a promoted team, and you have to buy into what Marcel Bielsa is doing. It's great work by him. There are definitely improvements to be made, mostly in the defense, and bringing in somebody who's like 6'5" or something. Vestergaard would be good for Leeds right now. But yeah, they're doing pretty well. They're showing some good talent. I think that they might run out of steam with how aggressive they play. So if they drop down the position, I think that'd be kind of expected, but they're definitely staying up, so good work for them. Last team I want to talk about today is Arsenal, who are in 11th place. I mean, honestly, all you can say this was a complete failure of a season, but the form's getting better, and there are a couple of standout players. So for Arsenal, they got off to a really bad start, and honestly, some people thought they were in a relegation battle. I wouldn't have believed that unless they only got like 3 points from the festive fixtures, but yeah, it's not great. I think one of the biggest problems is Arteta, and the tactics have changed basically weekly, and that's just an issue for the players. Nobody's getting settled in. I think Saka has played probably 5 different roles this year, between wingbacks, center mid, attacking midfielder out wide, and yeah, I don't think he's been doing that well. The recruitment hasn't done anything for them this year. Partey, when he gets healthy, I think he's a really solid player, and he's honestly a guy that Arsenal have been missing since Alex Song, maybe Gilberto Silva. But so I really like the signing, but he hasn't been playing, so can't do too much about that. I think one of the bigger issues is team selection. Saliba, he's been shipped out to Nice at this point. He's not even there, and with how bad their center backs have been, I don't know why he hasn't even been thrown out there. That's kind of weird to me, especially when his partner Fofana has been killing it for Leicester. And Granit Xhaka, I think in the midfield, I'm really not sold on him, especially playing over a Ceballos, Partey, even an El Neni in some circumstances. He had a good game today, so it's going to sound dumb, but I'm still not too sold on him. I think the main concern with this team is that they're really relying on teenagers to try to get them into Europe, and that's something I'm not comfortable with. Personnel-wise, Leno, he's been fine in net. Not too impressed with him, but he's been solid, I guess. I don't think I'm impressed with a single center back this year. Nobody who I really like on this team. I think they could build around. Yeah, it's not great there. Fullbacks, I think, have been a positive. Tierney, I think I'm really liking him when he gets a good run in. I think he's a solid player. When Saka's been playing there, he's been good. Bayern's been a bit of a scapegoat, but I feel like he's definitely still has talent, especially going forward. And I really feel like he should be given a chance playing next to some good center backs, because man, he was really good back in, 2016 when he's playing alongside Mertesacker and Koscielny. So I would want to give him more time before you sell him. Going into the midfield, it's been extremely poor. Granit Xhaka, I mentioned I'm not a fan of him. Ceballos, he's got some talent, but not that good. And El Neni, he can do some work defensively, but I think he's a poor man's Scott McTominay, and I don't really rate Scott McTominay. Honestly, I don't think any of them are top 6 quality. Definitely not top 6 quality. Probably not top 10 quality either. I think Partey's had some good moments, but I really want to see more from him before I judge him. Out wide, Saka's been good. He's been definitely the main good part of the season for them. Martinelli, I like his flashes. Same with Pepe, but nothing too much to judge for them. William's been pretty poor, especially when you consider they were signing him to probably push for Europe, but right now he's just taking away opportunities from younger players. Rose Smith, he's been pretty good since he came in. Again, it's too small a sample size for me to really judge him. I didn't even have him mentioned in the script, but he's been good since he started playing. Up top, Aubameyang and Lacazette, they've been really playing below expectations, and that really poor from them. I think I was expecting Aubameyang to have a 20-goal year. Does he even have 3 from open play? He might have 3 total if you're counting penalties, but not great for him. And Nketiah, I don't think he's a solution for them up top. And they just let Balogun, he let him go to RB Leipzig. Hopefully he turns out to be an American player, but he's got some promise. But it's kind of weird that they let him go when they're going with the youth movement. All around, they've been pretty poor, but the younger players have been good, and there are some decent building blocks. I mean, when you look at the team, Tierney, Saka, Partey, Aubameyang, I think there are some players you could build around, but I really can't see Arsenal reaching the top 6 or 7, whatever it ends up being, and they may need a Europa League run to get back to Europe. If they even want to get back, it might be good to just have a season where you focus solely on the Premier League. But yeah, that's it. All the teams that I think will avoid relegation and avoid Europe. So yeah, that's what I've talked about. Yeah, I'll see you.